Welcome to episode 3 of the Money Game podcast. Today's guest, Jazz Rose, is an interesting one. His mindset and teachings are well aligned to what I want people to take from this podcast. Jazz is a successful entrepreneur, author, property investor and business owner who scaled his business in the education sector from £30 to 3 million. What I like about Jazz is his perspective around money and how he helps people transform their relationship with it to then go on to make more. He believes that one of the biggest problems people face when it comes to money is their unhealthy beliefs. You know, money is evil, having a lot of money makes you greedy. And you realize he almost talks about money as far as being spiritual, which you don't usually hear.
You think money is materialistic, but money is not actually materialistic, money is actually spiritual.
Yeah.
So if you think about people are like, well, you know, money's just a tool. Well, if it's just a tool, let's say, oh, it's like a hammer, you can use it to do good things, you can use it to do bad things, right? But if money is just a tool, that means that you don't actually need it. So money can be a tool, yes, but it's actually way more than a tool. It's actually a spiritual blessing. And actually we need money to bless ourselves, we need money to bless other people around us.
Jazz, how you doing? Thanks for coming on.
I appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much for having me, man. It's a pleasure.
I wanted to ask you, we'll start off by saying that, you know, when I come across you, it was at a good time because it was when I was trying to get financially educated. And your content is exactly that. And I guess you're kind of, well, you say you're someone that, you know, helps people change their relationship with money. So how is it that you kind of do that?
Yeah, sure. Really, it's about transforming your relationship with money so that you have the building blocks to do whatever you want to do with money and you start to grow your wealth and become financially free. Because a lot of people look at finances in a different way and don't necessarily understand the foundations. You need to understand and build a financial foundation in order to build a financial forest, right? But a lot of people try and, like, to put it in another perspective, they try and build the house by putting the windows in first, right? And all the stuff that might look good. But you need to build a real solid, firm foundation. And the foundation actually starts in here. So a lot of people are like, oh, I just want to make money, Yeah. But that's all well and good. But you want to make money with a clear mindset and a clear understanding of what money is, what finances is, what wealth is, so that you can really start to expand that and actually hit your financial potential, which a lot of people don't.
Yeah. So what do you see as, you know, to start off like that, someone wants to take their finances more seriously and they want to kind of go on that journey, and you know, you start with people on their journeys. What are the instant changes that people make to kind of, you know, improve their financial situations? What are like the first building blocks that you must put in place?
To go from where you are financially?
Where you are, it could be a complete mess, you know, spending's all over the place, you don't track anything.
Yeah.
And then, you know, it's, okay, I'm taking this seriously now. Yeah. Where do they start?
I think one of the first things that you need to understand is you need to understand what money is. You see, a lot of people think that, one of the things that blocks a lot of people from making the money that they're capable of making is because they think money is materialistic.
Yeah.
And they think, oh no, like subconsciously they resist it. So they're like, hey, do you want this opportunity to be financially free? Nah, not for me. I'm fine where I am. Yeah. That's what we hear quite a lot, right? Because you think money is materialistic, but money is not actually materialistic. Money is actually spiritual. Yeah. So if you think about people are like, well, you know, money's just a tool. Well, if it's just a tool, let's say, oh, it's like a hammer, you can use it to do good things, you can use it to do bad things, right? But if money is just a tool, that means that you don't actually need it. So money can be a tool, yes, but it's actually way more than a tool. It's actually a spiritual blessing. And actually we need money to bless ourselves, we need money to bless other people around us.
You think that's probably the main problem with majority of people, is just that their mindset on money, maybe thinking that having money is greed?
Yes. Yeah. Well, if you think about it, one of the things that I've understood is that when you look at movies, when you look at Hollywood movies, entrepreneurs and millionaires kill more people in movies than any other profession. So what do you think that does to the human psychology of the movies that we're watching from 5 years old all the way up to 20s, 30s, 40s? Yeah. We're all watching these movies and we're watching all of these rich people do all of these horrible things with money. So you're thinking, I don't want to be too rich. Yeah. I don't need too much money. Let me just stay here where I am. Where it's safe. That's what I'm used to. And that's what happens is people start in a good career or good industry or whatever, they scale up, but what happens is they scale up incrementally. They go from 30 to 32 to 35, and they end up staying in the same region of pretty much where they started. But how do you go from 20,000 to 50,000 and from 50,000 to 100? Like, how do you take quantum leaps in your financial performance? First, you've got to really start to address what those psychological blocks are.
Yeah, do you know, it's a good point. And do you know what, there was even a bit of resistance for me at, naming this show, The Money Game.
Right.
Because I think as soon as I put The Money Game, people might think, oh, he's just talking about money.
Yeah.
That's why, and that point exactly that you made, because that's kind of how people think.
Yeah.
So how do you kind of think about the name of the show?
I love it, man. I love it. Money's
straight to the point, and
it's clear what money is, and money is a game.
Yeah.
Right, and a lot of people don't necessarily realize that. But the question is, what position are you playing in the game?
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Why I kind of wanted to call it that, after I kind of went past the blog, I know people are gonna think, oh, it's just about money. But after going past that, I think for me it's the kind of concept that I came up with since being in business for the last few years. Is to kind of change the way I think about it. And I think when you see it as a game, everyone knows how to play a game. Sure. They all know the rule. There's rules. There's motives. I think when you make it as a game, it makes it a little less seriously.
Yes.
A little less serious, and it makes you think. If it's just a game, I can play it. I can win it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's about a transfer of emotional energy. It's about transferring energy from one person to another person. So this is why we say it's a spiritual blessing. If you think of money like a certificate of appreciation, now you start to think of money differently. Yeah. So when we talk about, okay, let's call it the money game. Okay, so this is my certificate of appreciation of what I've done for Jazz, and this is Jazz giving me a certificate of appreciation, and it's just a reciprocal process. So you're constantly trading these certificates of appreciation. So when somebody's built a level of wealth, instead of saying, oh, that person must be greedy, or that person must have done some bad stuff in order to build wealth, you start to think, oh, actually, that person must have got a lot of certificates of appreciation. That person must be really valuable. They must have some really valuable knowledge and really valuable insights that perhaps they can share with me. And then if I learn those insights, then perhaps I can share that with people around me, and so on. And as a result of that, everyone becomes wealthier, everyone becomes more prosperous. Yeah. Think of it this way. There's an old fable, an old guy, and he was a carpenter in his community, right? So if you think hundreds of years ago, back in the day and stuff, and he goes around, knocks on people's houses, and he says, do you have a spare table that you're not particularly using? Most people say no, but he ends up running across this lady's house. She said, actually, I've got a table, I'm just about to throw it out. Now he says, okay, cool. Well, how much is it going to cost for you to throw it out? And she says, well, I've got to pay the council like 20 quid to come and pick it up. He says, okay, I've got a better deal for you, right? I'm a carpenter, I'm going to take your table, I'm going to fix it up, do nice things with it, and I'll give you a tenner if you just help me move the table into my truck. She says, good deal, no problem, right? So she's made some money from that transaction. Now, what happens is he goes away, he fixes the table, and he goes and buys some nails from the shops and painting, etc. Again, he's passing on some certificates of appreciation to other people. So that community of the shop owners now building some income from it. And then he fixes it, and then he goes, hey, do you need a table? Lady says, oh yeah, I need a table. My daughter's getting married next weekend. We're going to need some more tables. Say, hey, I've got this one. How much would you normally pay for a table? She just says 30 quid. He says, okay, no problem. I've got a table out here. I'll sell it to you for 20. So now she's now saved 10 quid. So all in this little small transaction, right? We've got 4 people who have made income, who have made money from this transaction. The initial lady that he's taken the table from, the nail shop, himself, he's made some money, and he's passed it on, and the other lady's made money from taking the new table. So all of a sudden, now, if you start to multiply these conversations, these things happening, you can see how a community who doesn't necessarily have much wealth or money in that particular community, simply by that one man taking an entrepreneurial action, he's actually allowed the whole community to start building wealth. And if he does that every day on multiple occasions, and other people start doing that, that's how a community goes from, financially struggling to financially thriving.
Yeah. And of course, it's kind of, if it relates to entrepreneurs, I guess, kind of run the world, I guess, don't they? Yeah. And do you think another maybe reason that I thought about as well, when going back to the name of the show, was that people maybe think that it's a game that they can't play, or it's a thing they can't do, they can't make money, maybe because of their background, where they're from, or their upbringing. Yeah. Do you think that's a big factor?
Again, it's a lot to do with what we've learned growing up, right? It's all of these psychological things. Your psychological thought process around money is typically embedded from the age of 8 years old. Yeah. So what you learn about money up to the age of 8 really determines a lot about how far you're going to go, unless you start to break the chains of what it is that you've learned. But what happens is people become 30 years old and they're still making decisions that are predicated on the 8-year-old mindset that was given to them by their parents or the people around them.
I really hope you're enjoying the show. I would just like to ask for 1 minute of your time to tell you about my sponsor whose support makes this show possible, CPC Finance. CPC Finance is a finance broker that specializes in sourcing and packaging a wide range of property funding. You name it, from buy-to-lets to commercial properties, auction investments, property developments. They are everything you'd want as a finance broker working for you on your property deal. They're extremely experienced. They know their market extremely well, which means they can move quickly. They're on the ball. They've been in the game for 30 years, which has enabled them to, one, build very strong relationships with a variety of lenders, which as an investor is super important, especially when things don't go to plan. Deals in certain situations aren't straightforward, which is often the case. They are bespoke specialists. And two, they have a brilliant understanding of all types of property investing. They know the strategies, they understand deal structures. There isn't anything these guys haven't seen, they're seasoned pros. So if you're someone looking for property finance of any kind, go to cpcfinance.co.uk, and on the homepage you can schedule in a call at whatever time or day suits. How was your upbringing?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Save everything. I grew up in a household where we didn't have a lot. We had enough to get by, but we never had enough to fly. Mm-hmm. And that was kind of like my mindset for a long time. Is just like, I just need enough, right? Yeah. But what is enough? Who determines what's enough? And if you start to limit what's enough for you, then actually you limit what you can give to other people.
Yeah.
You can't pour from an empty cup. So you've got to make sure that your cup is full and overflowing. Why? So that you can give to more people, so that you can give more value to people, you can give more certificates of appreciation to more people, you can educate more people, you can inspire more people, you can empower more people with the money and the resources to be able to do that.
Yeah. Okay, so you kind of get to that point where it's like, okay, you've changed their mindset. They no longer see money as greed. They need it to help people, to help others. You can only give what you have. Mm-hmm. So from that point, now you move on. Is it from there kind of really about breaking down their finances, what their habits are? Mm-hmm. Would that be the next step?
Yeah, it could be. Yeah. What we look at is how to set powerful goals. So once you understand that, you start to realize actually I can achieve a lot more than what I have achieved today, and I can do a lot more things than I've achieved so far. So what are the goals that I actually want to reach, and what are the steps in order for me to be able to break down those goals and actually accomplish them in a much shorter time frame than I initially thought possible. And then we start to look at, okay, how can we elevate in terms of achieving those goals, because a lot of those goals are going to need some sort of money. So how do we elevate and increase our income so that we can go about achieving that? See, a lot of people start by looking at, okay, well, how can I save money? How can I save? But saving has limited capability, because you can only save down to zero, right? But if you increase your income, there's no ceiling on that.
Yeah.
There's no ceiling on that. So that's where you've got to start.
So where does your money tracker app kind of come into this?
Yeah, so
tell them a little bit about that as well and how it works.
Yeah, sure. So it came into play in 2020 during lockdown.
That's fairly recent.
Yeah. So I remember I got a phone call from my CFO one day, and she said, we can't make payroll, when I was running a big company with like 150 staff and whatnot. And I was furious. Anyway, through long conversations back and forth, I started to realize that I've got to take full control of my financial future. Yeah. And one of the things that frustrated me with, just like accountants and just technical people in general, is that they always give you the technical information, but I'm a very visual person. So I wanted to see my finances in a graph visual point of view so I can see it. And I started to think, if money's leaking out of my business account, surely it's leaking out of my personal life too. So then I started to just create these formulas in Excel and stuff like that, where I can see how much money I'm spending on this, how much money I'm spending on investments, how much money I'm spending on food, so on and so forth. So I can get a real clear picture of where my finances are at. And then through that journey, it's just been able to do so much things like set your goals, see where your money's at, build your net worth, track your investment potential, and so on and so forth. So you can literally see, hey, if I invest £100 a month or £200 a month, this is what it's going to likely to produce for me in 10 years time. This is what, and so on and so forth. Yeah.
So what did you kind of realize when you kind of, at that point where you went through, you realized money was leaking in your business? So you thought, it could be leaking in my personal finances. Where do you think a lot of people's money tends to leak, and was it kind of a similar thing for you as well?
Yeah, Deliveroo won't deliver your dream home.
Let me write that one down.
We live in a very much a Deliveroo mindset these days, don't we? And it's very easy to fall into that trap, especially during lockdown.
2 clicks and you're ordering something.
Yeah, I had one of my clients call me a few months ago and said, Jazz, I've got your money tracker and I've realised that I spent 1,200 quid on Deliveroo this month. And she's like, I make enough, but that's too much.
Yeah.
And, you know, through that conversation, now, she more recently, she rang me up and said, you know what? I've been listening to you, Jazz. I've been paying attention. And one of the things that has really helped me is that me and my daughter are now cooking together. And she said, I initially did it because I wanted to get my finances on track, but actually it's helped me to build a much better relationship with my daughter.
And that's super rewarding for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Because that's what it's all about. It's not just about the money is just a monetary thing, right? But it's actually about the relationships that you're able to build as a result of doing positive and powerful things with your money.
So, to be fair, that kind of leads me on to another question. Is about I wanted to ask you how and what financial freedom looks like, because I'm sure financial freedom would mean, you know, a lot more time with loved ones, you know, building relationships. When people maybe not see money as important, but then they're working 50 hours a week for money, so it must be important. So what does that kind of look like for you? You know, why is that such an important thing for someone to have, do you think? Choice. Yeah.
A lot of people are running on a hedonic treadmill that they can't seem to get off of. Why? Because they're constantly chasing money rather than attracting wealth. You see, the highest level of creating wealth, the highest level of generating an income is actually your imagination and your creativity. What happens when you are working 24/7 on a hedonic treadmill for a long sustained period of time is that you lose your ability to be creative. And when you lose your ability to be a creative, you're actually operating on a lower level of wealth, which means that you're operating on a physical level, which is doing the thing, right? But you're not operating here sufficiently enough to really expand. And that's what holds a lot of people back. So when I was running my business, and I was running my business for like 18 years, the reason why it hit a stagnant point of about 3 million for a series of about 3 or 4 years was because I was doing the same repeated task over and over again, but I wasn't actually giving myself enough time and enough capacity to focus on my creativity so that I can continue to add more value to the business and be more of a blessing to the business. So oftentimes when we're overworking, we think, yeah, I'm on the grind and I'm grafting, I'm doing this and I'm doing that. That's all well and good, but you lose and limit your creativity level if you're not careful and you don't do it in a diligent way. So therefore, actually, let's say you're making 100 grand per season or per term or whatever it is per month, some people per day for others, right? But let's say it's 100 grand. But actually your capability is to make 500. Actually your capability is to make 1 million if you just took some time out to really recycle those thoughts and start to get more creative in terms of your potential.
No, one thing I also found out about you when you was younger, I think like 20, I think you were maybe 23 years old, where you was saving about 50% of your income, which I think is super interesting, especially at that age. That takes some discipline to save 50% of your income. And I think that ended up you getting onto the property ladder. Yeah. Because I just think, I see a lot going around at the minute, you know, house prices are too high. You know, as soon as I ask my friends about, or speak to my friends or anyone else about property, it's like, yeah, I can't do property because I don't have the capital. So I want to kind of get your take on that, on, you know, how was you able to be that disciplined at that age? What was your mindset at that time to be able to save 50% of your income? Yeah. And, you know, did that take a lot of sacrifice? Was it not going out with your friends? What did it look like?
Yeah, I don't believe in sacrifice.
Investments.
Yeah, I don't believe in sacrifice because a sacrifice is to give up something that you want in order to get something else that you want. But actually, you don't need to give up anything that you want. You just need to give up the crap that's not serving you. You know, you need to give up the conversations that aren't helping you elevate. You need to give up the spending habits that aren't helping you to get to where you want to go. So like my motivation was, I was on the phone to a client when I was about 20 years old, and I was in the process of getting my first big deal. And I said to the client, are you ready to sign the contract? On the back of this conversation, she was about to say yes, and then all I heard was doof, 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 doof. My stepdad's blazing berries hammering from downstairs. And it was a problem for me. And I went downstairs and I tried to have an amicable conversation with him, and he said, I'm a Rasta man and I play music. So
ain't no changing that, is it? You got to leave the house.
And if anyone knows what Rastas are like, they don't mess about with their music. I was like, okay, cool, I need my own space. So that's what drove me to start.
Did you keep that deal, by the way?
Sorry?
Did you keep that deal?
What, the house?
No, the deal that he had on the phone.
Yeah, just about.
Yeah.
Just about. Yeah, so that's what drove me to really start to save my money and get my own house so that I can.
So from there, you had to be able to move out, you had to save that much of your income.
Yeah, I had to put away 50%. Not had to, but this is just what I chose to do, right? And my friends were like, oh, you know, I remember one of my friends, Neville, who grew up with me, he said, you know, there was a period in your life where we was asking you to come out, and then you was like, nah, I'm not on it, I'm not on it, I'm not doing it. And then he said, as soon as you got your house, and a little bit after that period, you were like, come out. And everyone was like, nah, I can't afford it.
Yeah.
You see, so it's not a sacrifice, it's a choice. And it's about when are you going to do which thing, when are you going to be able to expand on which thing, and that's what it's all about.
Another thing I wanted to ask you, because it's something that I think about quite a lot, and it's about, you know, managing finances within your household. So, you know, like me, you got a partner and you got kids.
Yeah, 2 kids. Yeah,
2 kids. Same as me. And one thing I thought was super important when I kind of started really taking control of my finances was trying to get on the same page as your partner.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to get your take on it and see, you know, what kind of steps you guys made. Was it difficult? You know, do you have to have meetings? How do they look in your house?
Yeah, super. So that's where, like, for me, the money tracker has been super helpful because we have a money tracker. We have a money tracker Sunday, last Sunday of every month, and we just look at each other's money tracker and we say, okay, what are you spending on this month? What was your favorite spend last month? You know, what was the thing that really brought joy and like happiness to your life in terms of what you spent? And then what is it that you regret spending on, or what was your worst spend? And again, it's not a judgmental conversation, and I think that's really important, but it's like an opening conversation, because when somebody says, hey, that spend didn't really work for me because of X, Y, and Z, it produces the psychological thought in their mind to not make that type of spend again. And the more you start to reduce the negative spend and increase the positive spend, then the more powerful you become financially. And a lot of people think that, oh, you know, finance is about cutting back. No. Spend more on the things that you love. And then just spend less on the crap that you don't care about.
Yeah.
So
how long is that meeting, by the way? Is it a long meeting?
No, 20 minutes.
20 minutes?
20 minutes, yeah.
And how long have you been doing that for?
Literally since we've been together, about 2 years, 2.5 years.
Yeah, that's powerful, isn't it? So now, if you had to rate your togetherness financially, what would it be out of 10?
Probably about a 9.
And strong 9?
Yeah.
When you first met?
We didn't really have much financial conversation when we first met, because we were just sort of like dating and seeing each other. But once we started, you know, once she moved in.
When they came together.
Yeah, when we came together, once she moved in and everything like that, it was like, okay, cool, let's get this money tracker Sunday going on. And have these clarity conversations, because everyone comes from a different financial background. Everyone comes from a different financial blueprint.
Different habits.
So the key thing is to understand, where does that, again, it's not judgmental, but where does that blueprint come from? How can we help you uncover that? And one of the things that I've helped my partner to do is to really think about money in a different way, so that she can start to expand her blueprint and take what she wants to do and apply it to her life. Yeah.
Do you get your kids involved much in it? How old are your kids?
6 and 4.
6 and 4. So kind of getting to the age where maybe you can implement a little bit in terms of financially, or not?
Yeah, I don't necessarily go through the money tracker with them yet, but I talk to them about investments. They know about generating income, and they know what wealth is, or certificates of appreciation, and these sorts of things. So they really they really have embedded a strong financial DNA or financial blueprint, if you like. My son was writing affirmations the other day, and because he sees the affirmations on my.
So he does it out of his own choice.
Now he does it out of his own choice, and he's 6, and he wrote down, "I am an investor." Yeah. So I say to him, you know, what do you do with your money, son? He said, "I invest it." Yeah. You know, and again, he doesn't necessarily make money at the moment, but it's really a good foundation to set him up with.
No, that's amazing. That's something that, you know, we think about a lot, and it's something that I hope to get. As soon as he kind of gets that understanding, even now, you know, my oldest is 3, and he, you know, he knows that you need money to buy things from the shop, that you've got to pay for things. So just, you know, trying to implement things as early as possible, because I think, you know, as we probably started learning properly when we were a lot older. Yeah. So just imagine how powerful it could be, you know, with kids that are learning it from a very young age.
There you go.
Probably be you know, a lot better entrepreneurs than we are.
Yeah, absolutely. And don't limit their income potential.
Yeah.
You know, when I talk to my son, I say, you know, how much are you going to make? And he says 128 grand a day. I said, okay.
Where did you get that figure from?
You know?
Pulled out the sky.
No, I told it to him.
Oh, you told it to him. Yeah. And with kids, you know, as they get older, what things do you reckon you would try and implement into them? What laws, what rules?
Invest a percentage of your income, somewhere between 25 to 50%. If you can start on 50%, start at 50%. And then as you get older and you get more wealthy, then you can start to choose your different dial, right? But imagine if you are making £1,000 a month as a 17-year-old, for example, and you're able to put 500 away, and that should be your first instinctive thing to do, not the second or the third, right? Because once you put the right now, I've got 500 to play with. What that does, it does a couple of things. Number one, it triggers you to make more money. Because if you're like, hey, I can't live on 500 a month. Okay, cool.
More.
How am I going to make more?
Yeah.
Right? So then you start to dial up that conversation of being able to increase your income. And because when I was 17, 18, 19, 20, my blueprint and my psychology was, if I can make £30,000 a year, I'm going to be good. Because why? Because that's around about or more than what my parents had made.
Yeah.
And I didn't know exact figures what my parents, but I knew I thought that was a good amount of money based upon my psychological blueprint. So if we change that psychological blueprint for a 6-year-old and say, well, you're going to make 100 grand a day, then that becomes more cognizant, more aware to them. And again, money's just a game.
Yeah.
So if you can play that game and you can play that game at a higher level and you can use that money to be able to serve more people, then that becomes phenomenally powerful.
Yeah.
So the first thing that I would say is invest your money. Invest a certain percentage of it, track how much you're investing each and every single month so that this becomes habitual for you. And as it becomes habitual, it starts to increase your capability to increase your income, increase your awareness in order to be able to make more income, and then starts to increase because your money is now making money for you rather than just you making money.
But how would you say you would stop that urge? You make £1,000, you put away 500, you invest the other 500. How did you stop that urge from dipping in to the investment pot?
Oh yeah. Well, you never touch your financial forest. You know, your investment pot is like planting a seed, right? You plant the seed in the ground, and the more seeds you can plant in the ground, the more you can grow this forest. So the way that I think about it is like, hey, I don't want my forest to burn down. You can't. It's like this, right? I look at it in 3 stages. If you want to become financially successful, you've got to do 3 things. You've got to invest in yourself, which is the seed. In other words, you've got to get the seed of knowledge, right? And then you've got to plant the seed in the ground. What do I mean by that? You've got to invest it into the ground, into fertile soil where it's naturally going to grow and be successful. The third rule, which is the most difficult one, is to eat from the fruit of the tree, not the root of the tree. Which means that you don't start to chop away at the tree before the tree is fully formed, right? You want to make sure that the tree has grown to its full potential, and then you're just taking the apples off the tree, right? And then what happens when you take the apple off the tree? Well, another apple is going to grow. You see, now you've got a financial fortress, and you've got a financial forest that is continually growing and compounding for you and working for you so that your family doesn't have to work for it. It's very easy you can see when you start following this process, why the wealthy become ridiculously wealthy. Because imagine you pass on £1 million, let's say you're on a normal job, 30 to 40,000 pounds a year, whatever, right? And then you pass on £1 million to your kids. They withdraw 4% of that £1 million every single year, right? So they withdraw 40 grand to live on. The £1 million is continuing to grow and compound because the stock market goes up at 10%. So they're still getting about 3 to 4% growth every single year. So when they pass on, they're going to be passing on 8-9 million to their kids just by following a simple process. And then their next generation, they're going to be passing on 20-30 million to their kids. Meanwhile, they're living a good life as they're going along. So it's incredibly easy to do this in 2 to 3 generations. The question is, have you got the commitment and the skills to do it?
Then that's kind of the whole reason why I kind of wanted to start this podcast in the first place. It's just kind of highlighting and bringing awareness to the commitment levels. You know, when I looked at, I've been around, poor people, I've been around rich people, and the kind of difference I always see is, one, the commitment to the game. The poor like to resist it. They don't want to make money, find it greedy, like what we mentioned. And the rich, they understand the value of money. And and they're committed to playing it. They know the rules. You know, whether it could be, you know, a rule could be, you know, to make money you need to network. Where maybe a poor person who doesn't make too much money doesn't understand the value of networking. They don't, you know, they don't know that rule of the game.
Yeah.
So I just think any game that you know don't know the rules of, or that you're not aware that you're playing, you're going to lose.
Yeah.
So that's why I just wanted to, on this show, just, you know, bring on people that's going to highlight the importance of it and just make it that it's all right to make money. You need it to be a better person.
You need it to be able to add value. You can't put on a podcast like this if you don't have money.
Yeah.
And you can't add the value that you're about to add to people if you don't make the money, right?
Yeah.
Because then you can't pay the producers and the people behind, and you can't. It's not possible. You can't do that. You can't do the recurring spend in order to add the value that you want to add if you don't have money. So this is why it's so important to break free of that psychology of, oh no, money's bad. Money's evil. Yeah.
How important were mentors to you? Do you have a lot of mentors?
Unfortunately, I didn't. Well, I did and I didn't. So I didn't have any personal mentors.
Yeah.
But my car was my mentorship.
Yeah.
My journeys to and from clients and so on and so forth, like, was my mentorship, and I was constantly listening to, you know, Jim Rohns, Tony Robbins, people of that ilk, and learning from them, learning the success cues from them, and taking that in. And, you know, one of the things that I used to do in my business was I always used to pick one thing about once every 1 to 3 months, and I think what's one skill that I need to learn to master that's going to take my business to the next level.
Yeah.
And I'll pick that skill, and then I would learn as much as I can about that skill from whoever I could on YouTube or on the internet or wherever I can find it.
And what do you think the importance of multiple streams of income? And I seen on a bit of content that you put out that you had 12. Is that right?
Yeah.
And is that 12 completely different ones, or is that, you know, for example, if you've got a property and you've got 12 properties, do you class that as different streams, or that in general?
One stream of income.
One stream of income.
Yeah.
Is that how important has that been for you to have?
Massive, because if you asked me 5 or 6 years ago, I probably had like 2 or 3 streams of income, which is okay. But again, you know, we've all seen what can happen with things like COVID, and you know, people might think, youngsters might think, okay, well, COVID came around once and never going to happen again. But these kind of financial crises, these kind of financial calamities come around once every about 10 to 12 years on average. So you've got to prepare for it.
Yeah. What can you name a few that you have?
Yeah, so we've got obviously the money tracker, we've got the money mastery program, we've got a couple of masterclasses. So we've got a property masterclass, we've got an investment masterclass. I've got books, from teaching books to all sorts of stuff, and then we've got the property portfolio, and what else do we have? Then we've got public speaking.
Yeah.
We've got mentoring.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that one. Actually, that's actually one I wanted to speak to you about. Is the public speaking. How did you get into that? Because it's actually something that I think down the line I'd like to get into.
Yeah.
So how did that kind of come about for you?
Just loving it, man, and just being visible. And, you know, when I was running my company, I was always called to speak at different events and so on and so forth. It's not somewhere where I make a lot of income right now, but it's certainly something that I'm going to be focusing on. In fact, I'm going on to Andy Harrington's speakers training soon, so that's going to be exciting. And it's all about, you know, being visible, and then being able to find a message that an audience need to hear, and then being able to deliver that message in a really succinct and clear way that resonates.
Yeah. So how did it actually come about? Was it like you putting out a lot of content and speaking, and, you know, someone seeing it and think you're a good speaker? How it worked. And you just get paid for just one gig, or is that how it works?
Yeah. So it depends. Depends on what the particular event needs.
Is it called a gig? That's like a music
thing, is it? Yeah. I mean, it just depends on what the event needs. Some of them need like a one-off speaking gig.
Yeah, you call it gig now.
Some of them want something more in depth, something more repetitive, like a weekly mentorship for a group of people or what have you. So,
How did you find it?
Love it, man. Love it. I love being able to be on stage and to share a message that resonates with an audience and inspires them to take action. Did
you take any training before you started, or was it just kind of?
So I did Toastmasters for about 1.5 years, which was super cool, and learned a lot through that experience. But as with everything, there's always a new lane to grow, because people think, well, why are you going on more training?
Yeah. And you can imagine just like speaking. You think you just speak, but there's so many parts to it. You know, what would be a few things that you would have learned that improved your speaking massively, what you wouldn't have thought about before?
Things like pacing. So learning when to go, because when I initially started speaking, I was just speaking like that, and I was speaking really fast, and I was like really passionate, like yeah. But you have to learn to be able to pace a message. Another thing that you have to learn to do is to be able to read the room. Yeah. And to be able to deliver the same overarching message, but able to message it in a way which resonates with Kevin if I'm speaking to Kevin, and resonates with Phil if I'm speaking with Phil. So just having that toolkit in your armory to know when to speak fast when you're passionate about something, to know when to slow it right down. Yeah. And just let that message sink in with the audience. And then to know when to speak at what tone. Do I speak loud or do I speak soft so that you really resonate with the message? You know, it's learning all of those sorts of things, which has really helped me. Yeah.
Do you know, talking about multiple streams of income, one thing that I always hear a lot of people say is, you know, before you kind of build, you know, you built one, before you move on, that should be kind of solidified and solid. Yeah.
It's so important, bro. Yeah. And so many people watch, you know, short 30-second clips on Instagram and they think, okay, cool, I need 10 streams of income. Yeah. It don't work like that, bro. Yeah. You've got to build it. So here's what happened with me, right? When I was going through that process with my business, CFO said, you know, we can't make payroll, etc. I started building this money tracker thing. Then I started sharing it on my WhatsApp. People started going, oh, this is super cool. I said, who wants it? 20, 30 people took it. And then they was like, oh, you should put it on Instagram, this, that. And I wasn't the Instagram guy, right? I was, you know, because I was working in I was a CEO of an education company. So I was like, oh, education people in the schools and stuff like that, they don't want to hear a CEO of an education company talking about money. But anyway, I broke free of that chain, put it on Instagram, and then someone said, hey, where can I get it? Yeah. And I was like, in my mind, I was like, I don't know. But I was like, hey, send £20 to my account and I'll send it to you. Yeah. And that's literally how it started. And after that, that's when when I got loads of people inquiring and stuff like that. I was like, it's getting too long for me sending people my bank details. I need a website. And that's when I built it. And my focus with that business initially was to get it to a recurring income of £1,000 a month for 3 months. Before I launched the next thing. Yeah. Yeah. And that's the kind of what I call financial thresholds that you need to get into your business so that you can really start to grow multiple streams.
What if it's taken a long time, longer than you expected, and then something else, a great idea came about, and it was just bugging you, you really want to start it? Would you stay disciplined, like, I'm not starting that now until this gets to a certain level?
Couple of things. It depends on how sustainable the idea is, the initial idea is. So if it's not working for a period of time, it's either that you're no good at selling it, or the product's no good, or it's just not the right time. So if you have those 3 variables in place, the product is good, you're good, and you're in at the right time, then it will work, right? It might take 5 months rather than 3 to get there, or it might take a year rather than 6 months to get there, but you know the pressure points, because here's why that's important, and not to just jump when you know something's about to work, is because it builds up your skill set to be able to add value to the next thing. Because otherwise, if I'm trying to get to £1,000 a month consistently on the money tracker, right? And then I start Money Mastery, which is a £1,000 product, rather than a £30 product, for example, right? When I start that now, I'm gonna fall short of my success because I've not built up the fundamental skills to sell the £30 product. If I can't sell a £30 product, then I'm not gonna have the skills to sell a £1,000 product.
Yeah. So you think now when you get to the point where you have all them skills and you're a lot further down your journey, you can maybe move on a little bit quicker, or not? Would you still keep that same structure?
Yeah, I mean, it's a guideline, right? So if you're getting to like 800-900 and you're doing really well, and you know that you're gonna get there, okay, no problem. Like, go and do the other thing, you can also build things in the background, but just have that in your mind, like, hey, why is this not hitting target? Yeah, you know, and if it's not hitting target, it's usually because you're falling short somewhere within your skill set. So what do you need to learn in order to grow that? Right, and then you can use those skills that you learn to add value to this business and to that business. One of the things that I want to add to that is that a lot of people think that what keeps a lot of people financially stuck is that they think that they only need one stream of income. But I think of it this way, and this is how I want everyone to think about it. How many skills do you have? And one of the things that I get people to do is to write down all of the different skills that they have, whether they think it's valuable or not. Right? And then I was like, right, now, okay, you make £2,000 a month in your job, okay? But you're applying all of those skills into that one job. What about if you can make £2,000 per skill?
Yeah.
Let's break that down and let's see. So now you've got 30 skills that you've written down. Let's focus on 5. What are your most 5 valuable skills? What can you make the most money from? What are you most proficient at? What are you most passionate about? Bring those 5 skills in. Now let's focus on how to make £2,000 a month from each of those 5 skills. Now you've got £10,000 a month.
Could you give a scenario there for maybe someone that's working in a certain job? Okay, let's say from a waitress, for example. Someone's working as a waitress, and then she writes down a list of her skills. Pick a skill. Communicating.
Yeah.
So kind of where could you give an example of where maybe she could go down a route of in terms of getting another income outside of her job through communicating?
Perfect. So a waitress is a perfect example because a waitress meets a lot of people. And if he or she is a waitress in a good environment, then they're going to be meeting people like you, like me, we're going to be meeting loads of different people. So if you can please people in that particular scenario, and then you can forge and develop a relationship with some people and say, hey, I'm really interested in X, Y, Z. I heard that you were talking about property. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? Yeah. Okay, great. I'll tell you what. I'd love to take you out to another restaurant next week where we can talk about it. Okay, great. And then you build that relationship. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, you might be either employed by that person, or you might be working with that person. And then we're like, hey, I can't employ anybody at the moment. I'll tell you what. I'll come and work for you for free. All I want to do is I just want to learn from you. Yeah. Okay, fantastic. So now you're in that environment while you're still doing your waitressing job. And then later down the line, you're going to be doing what? You're going to be particularly selling for that. Hey, you're getting a little bit busy with all these properties, aren't you? Tell you what, let me do the communication bits that you don't want to do because I'm really good at communicating.
That's the money game.
And then that's the money game. That's another stream of income right there. And then all of a sudden you were making $2,000 from your waitressing job. Now you're making $2,000 per sale because you're now selling this person's products that this person's selling. Yeah. And you're making $2,000 from every sale that you're doing, from every property deal that you're doing because you've learned so much. Yeah. Wow, you're off. That waitressing job is, thank you very much.
Yeah. It's something so basic, isn't it? But it's something that not many people think about whatsoever.
That's all it is, man. It's the money game.
Yeah. No. So one thing, you're obviously huge in property, big property investor. Would you say that's that kind of your bread and butter? Is that
it's how I built my wealth.
How you built your wealth?
Yeah. It's a strong fundamental thing of how I built my wealth. I recorded an Instagram reel this morning, and it said it was like a little mock-up of me and a girl speaking, and the girl's like, yeah, I really want to be financially free. I really want to build wealth. I was like, okay, great, start a business. She said, nah, too much work. I said, all right, get into property. Nah, too much work. I said, all right, invest in the stock market. Nah, don't want to do that. What do you want to do? You've got to do something, right? So yeah, I mean, property is how I built my wealth, but obviously there's those 3 core components: is property, stocks, and business is like 3 pillars of wealth.
Which is your favorite?
Business. Because the income potential is exponential. The value that you can add is exponential. I think you should have all 3. But it's about where you choose to spend most of your time. Yeah.
I just wanted to speak a little bit more on property and kind of what you're involved in there, because I think obviously I'm very into property, so I think naturally my audience is a lot of property investors, property developers along them lines. So I just wanted to kind of dig into that a little bit and in what you're involved in.
Yeah, well, I started my property portfolio when I was 23, bought my first house, rented out 2 of the rooms. Mortgage was about £1,000 a month. Rent out 2 of the rooms, £500 each, never paid a mortgage.
Oh, and you lived in there while you rented it out?
Yeah, nice. Perfect. And I had my office in there, so I had no office cost as well. So, and I say that because a lot of people think, oh, well, it's all right for you. You've got loads of money, or you had loads of money. No, I didn't. I just used my money really effectively. And then having that £1,000 come in every month allowed me to save and invest in the next property and the next property after that. So then I started doing, found a place in High Wycombe, bought it for like 159,000.
Any training, by the way, or you just
No, I just went and did it sillily, foolishly, and it worked. But, if I were to do it again, I would get more guidance on it. But I learned the long way. And bought that property for 159. Today it's worth like 450, like 10 years later. Yeah. And it's just ridiculous what you can do. And it profits me like just over £800 a month because I rent them out as HMOs, and that's been able to grow my wealth through property by property by property. Each property paying between £700 and £2,000 a month in profit. Now it's like work becomes an option, not an obligation.
Yeah.
And that's why property is so powerful as a fundamental pillar to building your wealth. And that's why, I think that everybody should have at least 2 properties, one that you live in and one that you rent out. Because if you can buy 1 property, you can buy 2.
Yeah.
And it doesn't necessarily mean that you need to buy them consecutively year after the other. Like, it depends on your income and so on, right? But if you can buy 1 property, you can definitely buy 2.
Yeah.
So buy the second one and rent out.
So you was 23, bought this first property, you lived in it. You went on to buy an investment property, and then how did you kind of keep it rolling? Was you they were going up in value, refinancing?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I didn't know about refinances until I was like 28, 29.
And you realised you had all this equity?
Oh, yeah. And then I was like, Mr. Bankman, you're going to give me 90 grand for doing nothing.
Yeah.
I was like, this is insane. No one ever told me about that, Kate.
Really?
It was insane. Like, I didn't believe the bank until they sent the money to my account. I didn't. They said, it'll take like 3 months to go through.
Yeah.
I just thought, you know what, I'm not even going to think about it, because if I think about it and they don't send it through, I'm going to be annoyed.
Yeah.
So I didn't think about it. They sent the 90 grand through, and then I went and bought.
So at the time you thought, if I wanted to get this money, I had to sell it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't realise I had so much equity in I didn't know what equity was.
That's crazy.
I tried asking my family what equity was. They're like, yes, just a little thing, but don't get too much equity. So-and-so did equity release and they got money out of their house, and now they're still in mortgage 60 years later. I was like, I don't. So I've always thought, I always heard about equity being a bad thing, but it's actually super cool if you use it well.
Yes, I was going to ask that. What was your kind of mindset around debt? Because I'm sure around them times, and with kind of our backgrounds, maybe debt was always classed as a bad thing.
Yeah.
So at that time, was you scared about taking that kind of money out, or happy?
Not at all, because I know the profit. I know the money. The debt is going to pay me money.
Yeah.
So as long as you're sure on the foundations, clear on the foundations, you buy property in a good location, you meet the fundamentals, that property is going to pay you every single month. So you don't need to worry about the debt. If the debt is £500 a month and you've got £1,500 a month coming in, you ain't got a problem.
Yeah. So what other strategies are you into? So HMOs?
HMOs is my main thing. Yeah. That's like the bread and butter. That's what I love.
Yeah. Any development?
No, it's not my thing personally.
Why is that?
Time, energy, or at least it's not been my thing. You never know what can happen in years to come, but it's not been my thing to date. There's a lot of paperwork around property as well, which I'm a little bit paperwork adverse. If you like.
I think you're allowed to be fair. Well, I was going to ask, because one discussion that I have a lot with other property investors is, do they like to go small? Do they like to go big? When I mean big, I mean developments, or maybe not actually. Maybe purchasing large apartment blocks. What's your kind of thoughts on that? Is that something that you've looked into?
Yeah, I always like, if you're going to buy flats, like buy the blocks so that you own the freehold and stuff like that, right? It's not something that I particularly looked into, because I'm all about business. And the thing with property, although it's a very fundamental pillar to building wealth, is that like the amount that you can charge for it is controlled by other people that are outside of you. Whereas if you have a premium value business, then the amount of what you can charge for it is controlled solely by you. Yeah. So I like that leverage more of business, especially when you're an experienced business professional and you know what you're doing, then there's no limit on what you can create there. Yeah.
Have you ever lost money in property?
Yeah.
Have you?
Yeah.
You want to go into that? Is that too painful for you?
Sorry?
Do you want to go into that, or is that too painful for you?
No, it's fine. Yeah, so I got bumped basically.
Really?
Buy this flat, 10% ROI, so on and so forth. All the spill, all the marketing, branding, perfect. Bought it, realized years down the line that they didn't build it to satisfaction. Then tried to get the money back because they didn't build it to satisfaction. Company's gone bust. So then you can't sue the company because they ain't got no money. They don't exist anymore. Yeah. So then you're in a 5-year legal battle trying to get it resolved. And it's mental. You also find out that the flat is not as valuable as it was pitched to you as, and so on and so forth. But the thing that I learned from that is that I was lazy. I was a busy CEO of a large growing company, and I wanted to focus 99% of my attention on that. So I was like, let me just find an easy route through property. Oh, okay, yeah, you're going to give me the return on investment. And I didn't do enough due diligence. So that's where that laziness comes into play, and also that that thing about, you know, working too hard.
Yeah.
Without using your creativity.
Yeah. So did you buy that cash?
So I bought it cash.
Yeah, I thought so. Because if you had it probably would have helped if you had a
cash. No, I bought it on a loan agreement.
Right.
The loan was ridiculously high. It's like 6%, way too high.
Yeah.
But then I realized what I had done wrong. I paid it off. So I was like, do you know what? I ain't messing about with this 6% garbage anymore. And then there was a period of time where the flat was empty because the council came in and said it's not fit for standard.
Wow.
That was empty for like 10 months or so. But at that point I paid it off. So I was like, okay, cool. At least I ain't got the mortgage to pay every single month.
Yeah.
And now I've...
You still got it? You sold it?
About to sell it.
Yeah.
By the time this podcast comes out, it'll be sold.
You're going to check your emails as soon as we finish.
Yeah.
So how long ago was that?
That was about... When did I bought it about 6 years ago? No, about 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, about 5 years ago, yeah.
But that's not obviously not put you off property.
Sorry?
Like that.
No,
I think that would put a lot of people off property. Oh, you know, I lost money in property. Someone come to a guy like that and said, oh, I'm thinking to get involved in property. What do you think? No, bad idea because I lost money on it. I think that's kind of what a lot of people tend to do.
Yeah, because we didn't master the money mentality.
Yeah.
Because one thing went wrong doesn't mean that other things are going to go wrong. You just got to learn from your mistakes and then use them as leverage.
Okay, so Jazz, to kind of end this off, I wanted to have a little bit of fun. It's just like a quick fire round where I just wanted to get your take on a few things, a few topics. The third thing is thoughts on crypto.
Interesting.
A little bit more? Give us some more.
I would say, you know, the people that make a lot of money from crypto typically have firm and solid foundations in stocks and property and business before they have wealth in crypto. So don't just follow the crypto guy that's making millions, but build your financial foundation first.
Yeah, nice. What about something very popular in my profession? Watches as investments.
Do the numbers.
Do the numbers.
Yeah, do the numbers, because there are cases where you can, you know, turn a good profit on these sorts of things. But a lot of people, they say, oh yeah, well, Kev done this, so I can do the same. But they don't do they don't do the numbers. So if you don't do the numbers, you're more likely to fail.
Yeah.
And most people will fail because they don't do the numbers.
Money worries. Does it ever go?
What's a money worry?
Money worries in, you know, worrying about the lack of money or worrying about losing the money you got. Do you think you can ever get to a pinnacle where, you know, money worries are gone now?
Well, let's shift the language and let's say financial clarity. Because if you've got financial clarity, you never have a financial worry.
Yeah.
So if you know that you've only got £100, for example, you've got clarity. You know that your bills are going to be £50 or whatever. You've got clarity. You don't have a money worry.
Yeah.
You just have financial clarity, and you have financial clarity perhaps that you need to generate more income. That's not a worry.
But do you not think, you know, say if you've got that £100, your last £100, there's a worry there because, you know, it's not a lot.
That's a perspective. You see, it might not be a lot to you based upon what your experiences are and what your financial blueprint is.
Yeah.
Right? But you can do a lot of things with that £100.
Yeah.
So it depends on what it is that you want to create. Now, if you're concerned about, oh, I can't pay my bills, then you've got to get complete transparency along your finances. And then once you've got complete transparency, you're like, okay, cool. Well, I need to do X, Y, and Z. You map out a plan. Once you've got a plan, you have no more worries. People have worries because they don't have a clear plan.
Yeah. No, nice. That's a really interesting perspective.
And by the way, if I can expand,
of course.
The same problems apply to the multi-millionaire who has
that's kind of what
has $1 million in the bank, but has got to pay $2 million next week to get this property deal over the line. How am I going to get another $1 million in the next couple of weeks?
Yeah.
Right. That's a bigger problem. But if you're going to have a problem, you want to have the bigger problems. But at the same time, the reason that particular person might be worried is because they don't have a clear plan.
Yeah.
So it's all about putting that plan together.
Yeah. Got you. What's wealth to you? What does that mean to you?
Wealth is having enough assets that are able to pay for your lifestyle and able to pass down to generations.
One that was kind of trending a little bit, £1 million or dinner with Jay-Z.
Send me the money. Hey, unless I'm trying to be Jay-Z or be a rapper in Jay-Z's position, send me the money.
You're taking the mill?
Yeah, 100%.
I think what the kind of lands people were trying to go down was maybe that connection could be worth more than $1 million.
It could be, but what's the
But you
likelihood?
don't, yeah,
That's the question,
taking
isn't
it
it? What's the likelihood?
yeah. Free money books that you'd recommend.
Yeah, Your Money or Your Life by Vicky Robin, The Millionaire Next Door by Thomas J. Stanley, and Simple Path to Wealth by J.L. Collins.
Do you want to add a fourth and throw your one in there?
Sorry?
Do you want to add a fourth and throw your one in there?
Nah, those books are the top money books. I haven't written a book on money yet.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Free money mentors that you'd recommend, maybe that are online or...
Explain what you mean by money mentors.
I think just kind of guys like you that speak about financial freedom, how to get there, just finance in general.
Oh yeah, perfect. Two I'd recommend come straight to mind. Alex Hormozy, absolute, more on business, but same concepts apply. And Myron Golden, top guys, top dons.
Free money myths.
Money is bad. You need money to make money, and people that make money are greedy.
Nice. Jazz, that's the end of the questions. Thanks so much for coming on. Where could they find you for the people that are watching?
Yeah, Mr. Jazz Rose on Instagram or YouTube. Just search Jazz Rose.
And he's been super heavy with the content, which you like.
I love it, man.
Yeah,
I love
nice.
it. I love it.
So no, Jazz, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for playing the money game.
Pleasure, man. Appreciate it.
it.
Awesome.